صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة يا باب النجاة الأمة يا ليتنا كنا معهم سادتي فلنفوز فوزا عظيما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وأهل بيتك الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على قال الله تعالى في كتاب الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلما أن جاء البشير قاه على وجهه فارتد بصيرا قال ألم أقل لكم إني أعلم من الله ما لا تعلمون. Allah says in Surah Yusuf, ayah 96, when the bearer of good news arrived, he cast the shirt over the face of Yaqub, and then he regained his sight. And yet Yaqub said to his children, didn't I tell you that I truly know from Allah what you don't know? I want to talk tonight about the importance of Turbah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, what it means to us, what the benefit of Turbah is. Because some say, what is this special importance that Shia give to Turbah of Imam Hussain? They say there's nothing special about the dust from the ground. Why should we sanctify this dust? It's a doubt. People bring it quite often. They say it's a bid'ah. Now they say it's a bid'ah, or innovation in religion. And nothing gives healing except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these claims are made by those people who don't understand the Quran. They don't understand the book they are reading because they're not going to the proper channel of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I leave behind you two weighty things, Quran and Ahlul Bayt. We have to go to Ahlul Bayt in order to understand the Quran. If we go somewhere else, God knows where we'll end up. We will lose our religion. Allah gives us examples in the Quran that we can derive benefits and lessons, knowledge, practices from these ayat. And one of these ayat that is mentioned is the one with Yaqub and Yusuf alayhim as-salam. So Yaqub became blind because of his excessive crying over the separation from him and Yusuf alayhi salam. He missed him so much, he would always cry until he became blind. And we see that Yusuf alayhi salam, he gave his brothers his abba, his tunic. He said, give this, cast this on the face of my father. And this was the same abba that Ibrahim alayhi salam used when he was casted to the fire by Nimrud. And angel Jibreel came to Yaqub, asked him, do you want me to give you a dua? A dua that you will regain your sight and you will get Yusuf back to you. So of course he said, yes. So listen to the dua that Jibreel told him to pray. He said, pray as Adam prayed when he wanted Allah to turn towards him. As Noah prayed when he wanted to settle the ship on the mountain. Pray as Ibrahim prayed when he was thrown into the fire. Say, Ya Allah, as'aluka bihaqq Muhammad wa Ali wa Fatima wa Hassan wa Hussain. Ask him by the right of Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Hassan, and Hussain that bring back to me Yusuf and Benjamin back to me and restore my vision. Then he wiped the Abba on his face, and then he regained his vision. He got his sight back. And this is what Allah says in the ayah that we mentioned. When the bearer of good news came to him, then he cast the shirt over his face and he got back his sight. So when Yaqub wiped his face with the Abba of Yusuf, it's called, to show you we're calling it Tabarak. taking blessings or benefit from something else, which is a means to get to the result. It's taking from something sacred, something that belongs to someone from the Anbiya or the Ma'asumeen, the A'imma alayhimus salam, from Imams, from Ahlul Bayt, from Prophets. And we see that example of people are taking the alam or taking flag from Karbala, and they are bringing it to their ones who are ill. They are taking marble from the floor of the shrine of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. People touch their cloths or their clothes onto the rib of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and they are bringing it back to the ones who are ill. And we see that there's many blessings in this, just like Yaqub was healed because of the Abba that touched the body of Yusuf alayhi salam. So we have famous narrations about the Turbah of Imam Hussain, with more Turbah, the dust from shrine of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, that it holds shifa, it holds healing for all those who are ill. It's a cure for everything except death. So what is so special about this Turbah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam and his shrine, that people go all the way from far distant lands to seek blessings from the shrine and the dust from where Imam Hussain alayhi salam is buried? Why do Shia prostrate and do sajdah on Turbah? It's a question that many ask us. So according to Sheikh or Shia jurisprudence, fiqh, sajdah is valid only if we do sajdah on some of the following substances. For example, all that is part of the earth, the soil, the marble, sand, all that grows out from the earth except the things that we use to eat or we use to wear or we sew, like clothing. For example, we have wood, we have palm leaves, paper, all of these are permissible to do sajdah on. And they are based on the hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he said the earth is a place of prostration, it is a place of sajdah. We also find that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said that prostration is not allowed except on the earth and what grows and whatever grows from it, except those things that are eaten or that are made from cotton. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa considered that performing sajdah on other things other than earth not to be acceptable. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa prayed, it was seen that his forehead and his nose, it had mud on them. The traces of the mud were on his face when he made sajdah. And he didn't allow his Sahabah to make sajdah on anything else other than the earth. Some of the people complained. They said, Masjid is too hot. You know, Middle East is very, very hot. So they said, it's too hot. We cannot prostrate on the ground. So he told them to keep the sand in their hand and to cool it down. And then when it's cooled down, then you make sajdah on that. So if it was allowed to do sajdah on other things, like the carpet or the cloth or something else, the companions never would have had to ask. Because we know that we can only prostrate on the earth. Also, this hadith is mentioned in Musnad Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who was one of the 4 leaders of Ahlul Sunnah in their jurisprudence. We find other Sunni narrations that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa prohibited Muslims from prostrating on anything other than the earth. One time he saw a man making sajdah, and he took the hana from the amama, he took it out of the cloth, and he prostrated on this thing. He pointed to him and told him to remove his turban, his amama, and to actually touch his forehead on the earth. We see that it cannot be a barrier between us and the earth. And despite the intense heat of the ground, Rasulullah and his Sahabah, they used to prostrate on the ground. One of the great companions of Rasulullah, Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he said, I used to pray Dhuhr prayer with Rasulullah, and I used to take a bunch of pebbles in my hand, and while he's standing, he lets them cool down, and then he would prostrate on them, do sajdah on these pebbles after they cooled down. Another companion, famous companion, Anas ibn Malik, he said, we used to pray with the Messenger of Allah during the intense heat, And one of us would take the pebbles in his hand, and when they were cool, they'd put them down and prostrate. These aren't our hadith, by the way. These are found in books of Sunnah, because they are praying on carpet. We are praying on earth. Who is following the Sunnah of Rasulullah? We have to follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah, prostrate on the earth. One of the other companions, al-Sahabah, he says that Rasulullah said, we complain to the Messenger of Allah about the intensity of the heat of the ground and its effects on our foreheads. It is burning their place of sajdah, and it is burning their hands. But the Prophet did not excuse us from praying on the ground. So he didn't give them an excuse to pray on something else. And we find that in the time of the first, the second, the third, and fourth khulafa, all of the khulafa, that they used to prostrate on the dust. Mentioned in Sunni narrations, Abu Umayyah says that Abu Bakr used to pray on the earth. So even Abu Bakr prayed on the earth. So if our Ahlul Sunnah brothers are following Abu Bakr, they should follow his practice and pray on the earth and not on the carpet, according to their books. Also, another prominent Ahlul Sunnah author, the author of Sahih al-Bukhari, he says it's apparent from the tradition. In this Sahih al-Bukhari, they are saying Sahih because everything in this book they believe is Sahih. It is correct. It is to be followed. So in Sahih Bukhari, it says it is apparent from the traditions that Allah the Almighty permitted the Prophet and the Muslims to prostrate on vegetation if it is not generally used for eating or weaving. So Rasulullah made for himself a khumrah, which is a small mat made from palm leaves. And we find in Sahih Bukhari that Maymuna said Allah's messenger used to pray on khumrah. This khumrah is made from straw. Also in Arabic they're calling it al-Hasir. I found one in Kuwait one time before I went to Umrah. It's a little mat like the size of Turbah, but it's made from palm. We can pray on this, and said Rasulullah used to pray on this. So the earth is the best alternative for us to prostrate on when we want to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the greatness of Allah, by humbling ourselves and putting our face on the ground, on the soil of the earth. So we as Shia, we seek to do sajdah on the best place from the earth. We already established that we need to prostrate on the earth, but we want to find the best and most blessed place in the earth, in the whole entire world, and that is the soil and the dust from Karbala, which is blessed by the presence of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Abu Abdullah, Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So taking the soil from a blessed place is not innovation in Islam. For those who say that it is not, because we also find this in the examples from the Sunni ulama. One of the famous ones was the faqih, Masruq ibn Ajda. He was well known, he was from the Tabi'i, those who came after Sahabah. He was a faqih, he was a muhaddith, he was living in Kufa, and he was among the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, one of the famous Sahaba. He also fought alongside Imam Ali alayhi salam in the battle against the Khawarij. It's narrated that he used to always take a piece of mud from the city of Medina and used to do sajdah on it. And whenever he used to travel by boat, he used to take this mud, this clay from the city of Medina and do sujood on that. So Imam Ali ibn Hussain alayhi salam, the son of Imam Hussain, Imam Sajdah, he took the turbah from around the grave of his father, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, because this place is blessed, this place is pure, due to the fact that the blood of Sayyid al-Shuhada, master of the martyrs, was shed on that place. So we as his followers emulate this practice up till today, and we don't say that, some people say that, okay, Shia believe you can only do sajdah on turbah. No, we can do sajdah on the things that are allowed. Sajdah is correct if it is done on the earth. But we say that the best place to take the dust from and the best place of the earth is from the grave of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So the first to prostrate on the soil of Karbala where Imam Hussain was killed, was his son Ali ibn Hussain Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. Immediately after he buried his father in Karbala, he took a handful of this soil and he made it into a solid piece, as we see the practice is today, and then he used to do sajdah on this. Also his son, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, and his grandson, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, also did this practice. So we find this is a sunnah from amongst the imams. So Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam and Imam Sadiq used to take the dust from Karbala and make tasbih out of it. And they used to do glorification of Allah, subhanallah, subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, alhamdulillah. They used to do this on the tasbih made from the soil or turbah from Karbala. And we see that this practice actually predates Karbala. Because Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said that Fatima Zahra bint Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa she used to carry with her a tasbih, but it was made from what? She took the turbah from the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, and she made tasbih from this. And she used to do her tasbih after salat on this one. So we see that it is a practice that was actually done in the time of Rasulullah. And we see that people learn from her habit of taking from the grave of Hamza that they took from the grave of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, taking his soil and making tasbih out of this. So we see that taking the turbah or taking the soil from the grave of those who died in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was a practice that was done in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this soil from these burial sites is considered as something sacred, even the time of Rasulullah. We also find in Mafatih al-Janan by Sheikh Abbas Qumi that the merits of using turbah of Imam Hussain. We have riwayat from our 8th Imam, Imam Rida alayhi salam. Whoever uses the tasbih made from the clay of Imam Hussein's tomb, reciting the following statement with each bead, Allah will record for him 6,000 excellent points, 6,000 thawab. He will erase 6,000 evil things. He will raise him 6,000 ranks. He will decide for him 6,000 times of intercession. He said to say, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Also, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he said, whoever uses tasbih made from the clay of Imam Hussein's shrine, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness one time only, shall be considered to have asked forgiveness 70 times. Benefit of Turbah of Imam Hussain. We do istighfar one time on Turbah, it is like 70 times. He says, whoever holds the tasbih in his hand, made from Turbah, and he doesn't say anything. He doesn't say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, anything. He just holds the tasbih in his hand. It will be considered as if he has done 7 Subhanallahs. Just holding, just the benefit of holding tasbih made from Turbah of Imam Hussain. So just as Yaqub was healed from his blindness by rubbing a shirt on his face that belonged to a ma'soom, we find that there is immense blessings found in the turbah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said that the clay from the grave of Imam Hussain, there is a cure for every type of disease. This turbah of Imam Hussain is even the first things that we do as Shia when we give our children the turbah of Imam Hussain as soon as they are born, before they are even taking their mother's milk. We are taking a little bit of water from farat on our finger. We put in turbah, we put on the roof of their mouth. They taste the turbah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam before they are even taking the milk from their mother. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, make the first thing a newborn taste be the clay from the grave of Imam Hussain. For this clay is a means of protection for that person. This gives them many benefits, wards off illnesses, grants them a connection to the walayat of our master, Abu Abdullah, Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, if a mu'min who suffers from an illness, but the mu'min believes in the rights of Abu Abdullah, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and he believes in his purity and his walayat, if that mu'min takes as little as a touch of a fingertip from the clay of the grave of Imam Hussain, that mu'min will be cured by that clay. Shifa is in the Turbah of Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain, what can we say? The brother was reciting Noha, but I don't know Urdu, but I heard Futrus. Futrus was the angel with broken wings. How did he get his wings restored? He just rubbed them on the cradle that touched the body of Imam Hussain, and his wings were restored. Subhanallah. There's many examples of this, people being cured by Turbah throughout history up until today. I'm sure many of you know many people that this has happened to. I'll give you just one example in my lifetime. So I have a good friend from Virginia. I've known him for over a decade. And his whole life is centered around the Husainiyah. He is true khadim of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Everything he does, he works hard for that Islamic center. His family was the backbone of the center. He would travel to Karbala every year for Arba'in and walk to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. During Muharram, during the month of Ramadan, he wouldn't even sleep. He wouldn't sleep for days, wouldn't eat for days. He would just be focused on making sure the program is going accordingly and doing everything to help the efforts of Husainiyah. So one night after Majlis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he started getting a really bad headache. He's like, this headache is so bad, it's not like anything I have ever experienced before. It just kept getting worse and worse. It wouldn't go away. So he was trying to ignore it, it wouldn't go away. Finally, he felt like his head was going to burst. So he told them, take him to the hospital. So they took him to the hospital and they found out that he had a brain aneurysm. Blood was ruptured and blood was on his brain. So they took him from Northern Virginia in a helicopter to Richmond. Maybe it's 2 hours drive. They took him to Richmond and they found that he had blood on his brain when they examined him. So it was life-threatening. They told him they don't know what's going to happen. They're watching him. Most people are dying from this aneurysm. They didn't know if he would recover or not. And they say about 25% of people who experience brain aneurysm, they die within the first 24 hours. Around 50% of people die within 3 months due to complications from this thing. And of those who survive, 66% experience permanent brain damage. And very few people survive with nothing happening to them. So we see it's very serious. Most people are dying from this very quickly. So the Sheikh from the Husainiyah, he drove down to the hospital with some other believers. They prayed for him. They sat by his bedside. They put some of the turbah of Imam Hussain in his mouth. The next day they tested him. Nothing. Nothing shows on the scan. There is no blood on his brain. Everything is gone. It's like it never happened at all. So the doctors, were perplexed. Like, what is going on? We have to keep checking him. They did so many scans on him. Nothing. They couldn't believe it. This is like out of our hands. We don't even know what happened. They look at one scan, blood on the brain, other scan, like nothing ever happened at all. Until this day, this brother is very healthy. When I moved 2 years ago to Turkey, I was going with his family. We were over there together, and we see each other all the time. And he is in Iran now on ziyarat, and he's helping establish community in Antalya, working very hard. So they couldn't explain this, miraculous recovery of him, but we know that there's mercy and there's healing in the soil of the one who sacrificed everything for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad. There's one more story I want to share. It's very interesting that I found in reading from Riwayat and some of our books. One of the books, Madinatul Ma'ajis by Sayyid Hashim Bahrami. They have it in English now. It is 4 volumes. It's nothing but miracles from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. It's a very interesting book. So, he says, the Riwayat says, after the martyrdom of Imam Hussain, a white bird came and landed near the body of Imam Hussain. And it soaked its wings in the blood of the Imam. Then it flew to a place where a lot of other birds were there, in the shade of the trees. And they were chirping, and the Imam is telling the language of the animals, like Suleiman knows the language of the animals. It says that the birds were talking about food and water and basic things. This bird said, woe be on you all. You were occupied in discussing about food and water while Imam Hussain alayhi salam, grandson of Rasulullah, is killed in Karbala. His body is lying on the hot sands of Karbala. His blood is still fresh. You are talking about food and water and other useless things. When the birds heard this, they flew to the plains of Karbala, where they saw Imam Hussain alayhi salam already slaughtered on the ground. And those cursed men also beheaded him and took away his head to Kufa. No one had done his ghusl, no one had done his kafan. Also the body was trampled under the hoofs of the horses, while the hot sand of the desert was carried by the wind, gradually covering the body. Imam says the jinns of the forests, mountains, and deserts were arriving to pay homage to the Imam. When the birds saw the condition of the body of the Imam, they began to wail loudly. Then they smeared their wings with his blood. They flew away in different directions and started to announce with their chirps the disaster that happened in Karbala. They said, people, Hussain is martyred in Karbala. Hussain is slaughtered in Karbala. And Muslims have plundered the house of Hussain in Karbala. Wherever these birds flew, other birds surrounded them, and together they started mourning Imam Hussain alayhi salam. One of those birds flew to Medina, to the tomb of Rasulullah. And for a long time they continued to offer condolences to Rasulullah. Imagine the grave of Rasulullah, and the birds are flying there, and they are just doing something different. They are making a lot of noise around the grave of Rasulullah. Other birds also joined them, and they chirped the sorrow of Imam Hussain for a long time. So the people of Medina noticed this agitation of the birds, and they thought it was very strange. They didn't know what they were doing. What's the issue? Why are all of these birds here doing this? So they noted down the day that this happened. And after some period of time, the news of Imam Hussein's martyrdom reached Medina. This is when they realized that the Imam was killed on that same day, and that those birds were in fact giving salam to Rasulullah, giving condolences to Rasulullah. Taking off from the tomb of the Prophet, the bird flew to an orchard with fruits and things owned by a Jew. And it perched on a tree, and it sat on that limb of the tree and continued to mourn the death of Imam Hussain alayhi salam all night long. This Jew had a daughter, and she was physically handicapped, and she was also blind. And he used to bring her to this orchard in the daytime and then take her home in the evening. But he got busy with work, and he left her there all night under the trees. So she was under the same tree that this bird from Karbala perched on that limb. And it said that a drop of the blood from its wing, that when it wallowed in the blood of Imam Hussain, it dropped from the limb of the tree, and it fell in the eye of that girl. And due to the barakat and the blessing of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, her eye became cured immediately. Subhanallah. Then another drop fell on the other eye, and it became cured immediately. She got her sight back. Then some more blood dropped from that bird onto her body, and she rubbed it on her body, and she became completely normal through the blessings of the blood of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. In the morning, when her father came to the orchard, he saw a healthy girl. Imagine he left a paralyzed girl who was blind, and he sees a healthy girl running around. And he asked her, have you seen a sick girl who I left here the day before? The girl said, Father, you don't recognize this is me. I'm the same daughter who was blind and was crippled. When he heard this, he fainted. And when he woke up, he asked his daughter, how did you get cured? How did you have your sight back? How are you able to walk again? The daughter brought the father under the tree where the bird was perched, mourning for Imam Hussain. She said, Father, last night blood dripped from the feathers of this bird, and it fell on my body, and I became cured. The Jewish man, he asked that bird. He said, I beg you by the one who created you to speak in my tongue. Talk to me in my language. Allah gave the bird the power to speak like a human. And it said, I was sitting with others from my time when another bird joined us and said, birds who were occupied talking about food and water, chatting while Imam Hussain is martyred in the hot sands of Karbala. The tyrants have cut off the head of Imam Hussain, as well as his family is wiped out. So we all flew towards Karbala, where we saw Imam Hussain lying on the ground. Blood was coming out of the neck of Abu Abdullah. We applied his blood to our feathers and we set off in different directions. I flew here to offer condolences to Rasulullah. Then when the Jewish man heard this, he became certain that the droplets of the blood of Imam Hussain had the cure for his daughter. There is shifa, dealing with Imam Hussain. He said he became sure of it. And he said because of this, his grandfather must have been a prophet. So this Jewish man, along with his daughter and 5 other members of his family, they all embraced Islam due to this miracle, due to the blood of Abu Abdullah, Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Sallallahu ala Muhammad. أدم الله أجورنا وأجوركم أيها المؤمنون بمصابنا بمصيبة الحسين عليه السلام. The month of Muharram has arrived. The month that we breathe the master of the martyrs, Sayyid al-Shuhada. Tonight he is about to arrive in the land of Karbala, where he will meet his destiny that his grandfather Rasulullah foretold to his wife Salama. Salama says, I saw Hussain sitting in the lap of his grandfather Rasulullah, who had a block of red soil in his hand. Rasulullah was kissing the Turbah and he was weeping, he was crying. I asked, what is that soil in your hand? Rasulullah, he said that Jibreel informed me that my son Hussain will be murdered in Iraq. He has brought this earth for me from that land. I'm weeping because of the suffering, the trials that Imam Hussain will face. Then the Prophet handed this dust to Salma and said to her, when you see this soil turn into blood, you will know that my Hussain has been killed. In the book Thaqib al-Manaqib, Imam Bakr alayhi salam, he says, when Imam Hussain decided to leave Medina, Salma sent a message for him, don't leave until I arrive there. Salma had brought up Imam Hussain alayhi salam since his childhood. She was fond of Abu Abdullah. She also had that dust of Karbala that Jibreel brought to Rasulullah. Salma asked Imam Hussain, where do you want to go? He said, dear mother, I'm going to Iraq. She said, I beg you, please don't go to Iraq. Imam Hussain asked why. Salama said, I heard from Rasulullah, my son Hussain will be killed in Iraq. I have the dust of Karbala that he gave me. Imam Hussain said, I must achieve to be Shaheed. No matter it's today or tomorrow, I cannot escape death. Every soul will taste death. Salama said, so you are leaving to be killed in Iraq? He said, my dear mother, if I don't go today, I have to go tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, I have to go the week after. No one can escape death. I'm aware of the day of my martyrdom. I also know the place where I will be killed. I know the grave where I will be buried. I know all these things better than I know all of you. I can see those things like I am seeing you. She said, you can see Karbala? If you like, I can show it to you, Imam said. I will show you the place where I will be killed, the place my companions will be killed. Salama said, show me. Imam Hussain alayhi salam said, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The lamb sunk down below and he showed her the place of his and his companions' martyrdom. Then he took a handful of dust from that place and gave it to her. She said, mix this. He said, mix this with the sand that you have, the one Rasulullah gave you from Jibreel. I will be martyred. I will be shaheed on the day of Ashura. Time passed, and on the day that he was martyred, on the day of Ashura, Salama saw Rasulullah at night in her dream. He saw that there was dust on the beard of Rasulullah, dust on his head. Salama said, Ya Rasulullah, why are you crying? Why is there dust on your hair and on your beard? He said, I am coming from Karbala. My son and his companions have all been killed. Salama began to wail and lament. She said, oh my son, wa Hussaina, wa Madluma. The ladies of Medina gathered. They asked, why are you crying? She said, Hussain has been killed. They said, how do you know that? Salama said, I saw Rasulullah in a dream. There was dust on his hair. There was dust on his beard. He was crying. When I asked him why, he told me Hussain and his companions were slain in Karbala. The lady said, don't worry, you are just having a nightmare. Salama said, wait, I have that dust from the place of Sayyid al-Shuhada he gave me. Let me check that dust. Then she lifted the bottle in which she had stored the dust of Karbala. She saw that it had changed into fresh blood. She knew that Imam Hussain was killed. I remember one time I was standing outside the shrine of Abu Abdullah. I saw an elderly Sayyid from Afghanistan. He was looking right at me, but he wasn't in this place. He was somewhere else. He was crying, he was looking distraught, he was searching for something, but he couldn't find what he was looking for. He came to me and he asked me, where was the place that Imam Hussain was beheaded? This Sayyid, he had the green cloth of Sayyid. I took him and I took him by his hand, this elderly man, and I walked him to the exact spot. And I told him, this is the spot where Imam Hussain was killed. He said to me, he had tears in his eyes, he said, this is the place my grandfather was killed? I said, yes. The pain I saw in the face of that man, where he saw the same place that Imam Hussain was beheaded, it was too much. We both started crying. He grabbed the dari, he started crying, Wa Hussaina, Wa Wayla, Wa Musibata. One of the companions of Imam Sadiq said to him, Ya Sayyidi, may I be sacrificed for you. When someone loses a loved one, they sit by the deceased, they mourn, yet I see you and your Shia, you are wailing and doing azah from the beginning of the month for Imam Hussain. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, on a night like tonight, when the crescent moon of Muharram is arriving, the angels are circulating the heavens with the blood-stained shirt of Abu Abdullah Hussain. It shows all of the marks of the swords on that shirt. When we see this, us and our Shia, not with the eye, but with our hearts, and we witness this, our eyes exploding in tears. Imam Rida alayhi salam, he says, the month of Muharram was a month that even those who lived in Jahiliyyah, they used to sanctify Muharram. They wouldn't fight in the month of Muharram, yet our blood was made lawful in Muharram. Our sanctity was transgressed in Muharram. Our descendants and our women, Ya Zainab, they were taken as captives in Muharram. Our tents were burned. All that we owned was taken. It was stolen. The sanctity of Rasulullah was not referenced to our matter. the land of adversity and affliction. They made us inherit adversity and affliction till Yawm al-Qiyamah. Hence for the likes of Hussain, let those who weep, let them cry, for the tears will wipe out even the greatest of the sins. Abu Hamza al-Tumali, he asked Imam Hajar alayhi salam, he says, Ya Sayyidi, Yabna Rasulullah, when will your sadness end? When will you stop crying for Imam Hussain? Isn't death normal for you? Isn't becoming a martyr something honor from you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The Imam, he replied, may Allah accept your efforts. Allah took away Yusuf from his father, Prophet Yaqub, and he wept until he became blind, till his hair became white. But as for me and I saw my father and I saw my family slaughtered in front of my eyes on the plains of Karbala, my sadness will continue until the day that I meet my father, Abu Abdullah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Assalamu alayka ya عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزياراتكم. Altogether, Assalamu ala al-Hussain wa ala وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. يا حسين